The full Secrets of Power set is spoiled, and there are a lot of cool cards to get into. A new mechanic comes in, a new style of play, and a lot of information as we're trying to get into the information tonight. What we're going to do tonight on the podcast is we're going to break down our favorite cards from Secrets of Power. We're going to talk about some synergies, some decks that we've been building around with these cards. And after that, we're going to dive into a quick meta analysis, getting ready for the last week of PQs coming next week. We don't want to leave you hanging as you get ready for your PQs to end the set. After that, we got a little bit of a team update. Really excited to talk about that. And let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. I'm Jordan from the Colorado Cantina Crew, joined tonight by Kyle and Sharky. Welcome in.
Hey, what's going on, man?
How's it going?
My favorite thing, and this is one of my favorite things as a podcaster. I've done this years and years before. Kyle, you've met Alex and Philly, the person who was the victim of this. But I love when you have two people on a podcast, you ask how they're doing, and they speak over each other and say they're doing well. That's my favorite. It's honestly one of the hosting joys that I have here. Shout out Nate Duncan, NBA. It's his favorite thing too. Okay, so like I said, a lot to talk about. A lot of cards, a lot of new things, a lot of new styles of play, maybe some old decks that might get reinvigorated by this new hotness that we have in front of us. Overall, before we dive into like our favorite cards and stuff like that, what's the temperature check? I know I'll speak for myself and say, just from like a marketing perspective, earlier on in the set, I was a little bit worried, right? I was like, wow, Worlds was awesome. We saw Padme, we saw Cad, we saw the introduction of plot, excitement was high, the vibes were high, and then you saw a lot of draft fodder. You saw a lot of things that were curious, and I was worried, right? Like, I'm a big Carbonite guy. I like shiny things, and I was like, oh no, am I gonna regret my pre-orders and stuff like that? But Kyle, let's start with you. Did you experience what I was just, breaking down, and how are you feeling now?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit on our previous pod too, but the initial wave of card reveals, I was like, this is about to be Twilight all over again. This is going to be sad, right? I was worried that it was going to have very little impact on the meta. There wasn't going to be a lot of cards that we were going to see play, outside of a couple that fit the new mechanic. But that changed over time. I will say, preparing for this pod in particular, I'd kind of read all the cards as they were being released, taking mental notes, but today I sat down and really read every single card again. And then I couldn't bring down my list on what I want to talk about. So it's like, there's a lot of very playable stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff that is going to impact the meta and make some changes to things. A few of those we're going to get in today, but I am excited. I think this is going to shake things up, in a significant way.
Yeah. Sharky?
I think your opening introduction could have been read from my mind as well about this one, because I felt the same way very much. And I know I've joked about it on our Discord before, but the way to build hype isn't to kill it first. And so that's what it felt like this particular marketing strategy did. However, that being said, I have done almost a complete 180, and I'm actually very excited for the set. The information warfare and the addition of plot has made some very interesting interactions, and given, I would say, some new life to some old styles of play, even if not old leaders yet. I'm actually very excited for post rotation, because there's a lot of this stuff I think will stick around for the next, year and a half that it's legal as well.
And
there's several cards here that are going to be staples, right?
Yeah, no staples now.
As rotation happens,
it gets even better.
Yeah, these are cards you're going to be playing with for 2 years.
Yeah.
So get ready, get comfortable, goodbye Sabine. Hopefully I find some sort of attachment for my heart moving forward. Overall here though, a couple things, right? Hype is a interesting thing, right? It's one of those things that is out there in the ether. It happens naturally, or it happens manufactured, and sometimes the best laid plan could end up not being great. And I think I work in a similar field, right, in terms of trying to get butts in seats, as they say, trying to get people to watch content and do deals, et cetera, and I think sometimes you think, what we should do, we should really build it up slowly until it crescendos at this epic point. Everyone's like, give me more, and that could work, right? In some spots it probably does work, but then maybe you have to go a little bit harder and faster, if you will. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk through some of these cards, and I guess we'll do a little bit of a snake draft. Does that make sense? Right. Kyle will go first, I'll go second, Sharky third, and we'll move and stuff like that. Sharky, that means you also get to go fourth, which is fun. So we'll move around, and then just for ease of production, we'll try to keep it in the aspect range that we're in. So it's not really a real draft because choices are generally an illusion. So let's dive into it, Kyle, and let's just start with the cards that you're really looking forward to start. What color should we go to?
Yeah, the first card I want to talk about was the card that, opened my eyes immediately when I saw it, and that's Galen Urso. Immediately when I saw this card, I thought, yep, that one is going to be interesting, right? So with Galen, you're doing a very similar thing, costs 4, it's a 3/5, that you're doing with Kira. You're trying to prevent your opponent from, bringing a strategy that's going to harm you, right? Except for Galen's layered, right? So Galen you can take the easy route with Galen. You can look at a card that's on the table and turn it off, right? An example of that would be ECL, right? I'm going to turn off ECL, and now you can't ECL record me, right? But then it layers beyond that with I can try to prevent a card that's going to harm me in the future. And this is going to provide a lot of skill expression for people who are very aware of the meta. We talk a lot here about the meta. You need to know all of the decks you're going to face, the strategies they're looking to employ against you, and then you can use Galen to prevent the most painful or the pivot points that are going to be coming at you. And on top of that, he has plot.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to have him in my hand like I do with Kira, right? I might be able to bring him out on my leader flip. I just think this is, in my view, obviously one of the best cards in this set, and also one of the best cards for skill expression.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to top the best cards power level wise when it's all said and done, but it definitely has the potential to be. I mean, this sort of effect really is a yellow effect at core, right? I mean, the only other card that does this in blue is Regional Governor. And I guess you could say they're relatively connected in some ways, both Imperials. I think actually just that's an official, not an Imperial, which is interesting. But a lot of competition, like you mentioned, in yellow, if you're trying to pair like a blue-yellow deck, you have Kira, Ahsoka, this. If it's Han, which I know you're thinking about, you have the Churret spot, you have Itinerant. There's a lot of things. I do wonder if this ends up being like a one-of main deck, two-of sideboard kind of card, and then you're bringing it in those pain point matchups. But a super high skill expression, like you mentioned, and also just a really cool ability. Like it's taking that the section of the game where you're like saying, hey, I know you want to do this, and there's going to be some external leverage point that says you can't, right? And it's a different interesting take on that, right, Sharky?
Yeah, this is one of those where it's like the information warfare that I was talking about. This is an example of it, and actually this guy is very similar to my favorite card in the set that we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But similar kind of skill expression for knowing what your opponent is playing and trying to do with their strategy, with their cards. This guy, I think that the limits are actually endless. And I do think that even if he doesn't start off hot out the gate in every deck, I do think that at some point, anybody running blue heroism is going to have Galen somewhere in their 60.
And let's not forget, Kira rotates in 4 months.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I could see him hitting the sideboard for sure. I'm definitely going to try him out main board right away. But to your point, could you imagine if this guy was red, right? As in an aggro deck, turning off Sentinel, right? That would be dangerous.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So just staying in the blue aspect, there's 2 cards that I think are really cool that I would like to talk about. So I'm going to take them both. I know no one else is interested in the second one. But for me, it's Creditor's Claim. And this is really a Thrawn specific one, but I think it's a really interesting upgrade that all of a sudden makes a bad unit much better, right? It's a 3-cost upgrade, buffs 2/2, and when defeated, it has the devastating gunship effect, right? Where you could defeat a unit with 3 or less HP remaining. And I think obviously in Thrawn, in Thrawn, it's amazing, right? You get to do it twice. In regular people without Thrawn, it's still pretty good, I think. But overall, I think this type of controlling effect is what I'm just really interested in, right? It's not direct removal, it's unit-based removal with a little bit of a twist that really makes some of those trades a little awkward, really makes a unit like Krennic incredibly hard to deal with early in the game. Also, like an Onyx Squadron Brute talking for Thrawn again. But I think this is a really interesting card overall, and I'm glad it's printed.
I think it's really cool because you're right. This is an interesting way to do control in that it's interactive. It has consequences and interesting decisions to be made at pretty much any time that this thing hits the board. It's not just, hey, look, it's a unit, delete it. Hey, look, it's a unit, delete it.
Sure.
Like you have counterplay, you have interaction, you have things that you can force your opponent to do and I like the way that they're going with this, even if this isn't going to be strong enough necessarily until rotation to see play. It might still see play, but if it isn't, it's because I like where they're going with it, I guess.
Wow. I can't believe with the number 1 pick, you took a card that I just was off the radar entirely for me.
Well,
and I love to disagree with you too.
Yeah, do it.
To me, this card is to me, this card is too convoluted. It's too many steps to get to the end game, and the payoff's not high enough. I think this is a card that gets tried out early in the set and ultimately gets cut out of just about every list.
I think this goes in Thrawn instantly, right? I think any Thrawn deck is running this, and then I also think that Talzin will actually be really interesting with this, with the damage reduction. Overall, I wouldn't call this a number 1 pick. I would call this a next to the card that we were just talking about in the same color within 1 scroll, which we're trying to do. But I like that. And I'm also I think this emergency powers card is just really interesting. I don't think it's necessarily super strong, but I'm excited to see this kind of thing being printed. I think another card that we might talk about later, we might not, but it's aggressive negotiations. That's kind of in the same realm as like
on my list.
You have this and then that happens. Obviously this is a 1 cost villainous vigilance, easy for me to say. Choose a non-leader unit and pay any number of resources. For each resource paid this way, give an experience token. Just really, we haven't seen anything really like this printed on a permanent effect basis, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to punish somebody tapping out and not having any way to interact with your board in a late stage part of the game. And I've seen some pretty extensive uses of this in some screenshots. I don't know how often that'll happen in a real game, but like it's kind of cool to see in testing someone getting like a 15-15 Vader or something stupid like that.
I just think it's really cool to see this sort of thing exist. I don't know if it's going to be great or not, but I think it's just a different take on things.
Yeah, I had it in both decks in midday matchup last week because I had similar excitement. And I think I've already gotten to the point of not going to happen in constructed play, but I think this is potentially a limited bomb, right? Yeah. I think this is a card that you take immediately in limited. It's a rare, your opponent doesn't expect it, and you just kill him.
11 damage or something like that.
Surprise!
It's crazy. All right, Shark, you're up.
Hey, look. We're right there already. It's Cad Bane. This might shock anybody who knows me. However, what might actually shock you is that I'm considering playing Cad Bane blue at this point. I really like Cad Bane unit, specifically in a Cad Bane deck, but he's also pretty good in Kira. The fact that you can order the when played with Cad Bane's ping trigger can make it so you can either knock 2 things out or do extra, knock 1 bigger thing out. He's a plot card. He's Underworld Bounty Hunter. 4/5 is decent stats on 5 for the flexibility of plot. He has inherent power from the dark side, or power of the dark side protection when you flip. It's funny to me that one of the first spoilers is still one of the cards I'm most excited about, but this card is really good.
Kyle?
Yeah, I've been playing it in Kira. This card is just an obvious auto-include in Kira. Is very good, right? I mean, you always had the backup plan of Long Pike for when your flip turn goes wrong. Now you have the backup primary plan, right? So you're either going to get OB'd or you're going to get catted, but both are very good. Cad, obviously a good card. I mean, this is the gunship, but with a plot. Yeah.
And, Sharky mentions Power of the Dark Side insurance. And, obviously it's a 4/5. You would rather it not die, but if it does, it already did something, right? The moment it hits the floor, it has an impact, especially in Kira. If you're playing it not in that type of deck, it might be not as good, right? I think it, for me, if I'm picturing it, I picture Kira, Cad, blue, like Sharky mentioned, and then maybe it's not as natural of a fit in other spots. But overall, I think it's really interesting, and I think this is going to be unless we get an overwhelming barrage reprint or something similar. I think personally, I would rather be wanting to play this on my flip as a Kira player, or obviously not Kira, but a control leader, rather than craving power.
I think this also fits in a Talzin deck, though. I know it can get a little awkward on that flip turn, so it doesn't automatically fit there, but you can build this in.
Yeah. Great unit, great design, great prestige artwork. Really excited to see that. So and I think we mentioned the hype earlier on in the video. This is part of the reason that the hype started so strong. I remember at Galactics, I was pissed off sitting in a line. I'm like 35 minutes into a line with no end in sight. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. And then you had a topic conversation. Okay, next pick.
I have another blue card if we're still on blue.
Let's do blue,
else does, but Kyle, you got a blue card?
I got another blue. So the challenge I have is there's like 5 cards I want to talk about, but if I'm only going to pick one more blue to stay in color before
I've
we
got
move
one
on,
more blue after this.
yeah, I'm gonna grab Bo-Katan.
Okay.
So Bo-Katan, when I first saw this card, I thought trash. Right, moving on. Just cost too much. No way. The more I play with it now, I'm like, well, maybe, right? So this deck, at least in like a Hantu blue so far for me, it fits into that crate dragon slot, obviously, right? And where I'm at now is I'm trying 2 crates, one of these. So they both have that same bomb capability, but are very good into different situations, right? Crate, you might want to play it to shut them out, shut down the game, but it doesn't immediately, outside of that, preventing them potentially from playing something, have impact. Whereas Bo-Katan, especially if we're going to see these go wide strategies or space strategies, she has the potential to come down and wipe the board, or dang near wipe the board, plus present a huge threat. You don't even have to give the experience to her, right? So then potentially 2 big threats. So there have been situations now where, I get to the point in the game and I've got Crate Dragon in my hand. And I try to imagine, what if this was Bo-Katan in my hand right now? And the answer several times has been, it would be way better if this was Bo-Katan right now, right? And so
That's cool.
I've been surprised.
Well,
I've been
Bo's a
surprised
catch-up
at the
card,
times I wanted her.
right? And Crate's not. Crate doesn't help you catch up at all in a lot of spots, right? Maybe in certain.
It just closes the door.
Exactly, right? One note, and then I'll dive into the gameplay. Somebody at FFG loves Kate Sackhoff or Katie Sackhoff. Like I swear to God, like the renders of all of these pieces of art that she's involved in all look basically exactly like her, and
her showcase is great.
Very, very flattering as well, I would say. Which I'm a Battlestar Galactica guy. I like Bo-Katan. I think she's a great actress, but I just wanted to get that out there because I see it. And you're not fooling anybody. We're on to you. But yeah, I think it's a great card for that purpose. I do wonder if outside of the extremely specific use case that Kyle is describing, playing Hantu Blue, going through this thing, if it's realistic, or maybe this is like something that you put in like a Yoda deck that you try to You're My Only Hope out to pair with the flip turn or something. But I think this is going to be good, with cheating resources.
I agree for the current meta. I think that this is one I had earmarked to come back to in March. I think this is going to be actually much better once rotation hits because there's a lot less inherent cheating and a lot more like conditional cheating, and you have to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you will get to more things that are like Bo-Katan. When she comes down, she's a fucking monster, man. Like, I love that. I love seeing things. The inner Timmy of my inner Timmy is like, let's see how this goes. That's rare. Cool.
This has legendary written all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like with this type of ability, cool. You rarely see this sort of awesome ability that's complicated. That's a 2-step ability on a card like this, Yeah.
I mean, if a limited game gets to 9 and your opponent drops this, you're done.
Yeah, you just lose.
Most likely.
GG.
Right? And
GG.
we're going to lose a lot of bombs come rotation.
Totally.
And so then we're going to have to reevaluate all of the high cost cards to see which ones are good.
Agreed.
Okay, so Sharky, hit us with your next blue one, and then I'll close up the blue on my end.
It is the Hyperspace Disaster.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of this, and if you play any space decks, you will hate this card. Multiple times during testing, I've gotten to pull this off by stalling Darth Vader decks out until Resource 7 and then saying, see ya.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's an automatic win condition, but like that one as getting wide, this works better, or maybe just the same way as like a bombing run, but there's a lot less things that can survive this than a bombing run. And it's a massive momentum swing. And so this card enables at least a lot of blue decks to go ahead and, if you can survive to this point, try to take the game back from someone who's going space aggro and getting wide on you.
Yeah. I would add that, especially from my recent perspective, playing a lot of Thrawn Data Vault, right? At the promo event in Philly, there are many situations where I would have loved to have this on Resource 7, right? Like, you're trying to survive to Resource 8 to get to Snoke, to get to Super Laser Blast, to, really stop this space assault from Vader, from Kaz, whoever you're playing, right? Also, I'm a fan of this sort of conditional removal. I think maybe like 6 months ago, I would have been like, no, I want hard ass control, reprint boss. But I think I think that this is fair. I think the conditional removal that we saw prior to like the past 2 sets wasn't fair, right? Like it was too shitty to make it, to change that, right? It almost felt like you were just like trying to shovel dirt on control, right? Which I know you like and I don't. But
Yeah.
I would say overall, I think it's really cool. Great art, great everything. It's a rare, not a legendary, so it's a card that you will see in limited probably. And also, like, there's really not a lot of removal in the set, right? So it is nice, especially in that limited environment. Kyle, any thoughts on this one?
It's a great sideboard card. Decks like Ray are going to love it. Not too much more to add.
Cool. Yeah, great for
Great in Cat Blue.
for the heroic decks, right? I guess that's something that we didn't mention that we probably should have, is that, you were playing Nebula Ignition, but against the decks that you kind of need it versus like these go wide and upgrade decks, you can't do it. So last blue one for me, and again, I don't think it's as sexy as what you guys are picking, and I'm scrolling down, but I'm scrolling back up, and for me, it's the Populous Advisor. I really like this card. A 1/4 for 1 with conditional Sentinel. I think it fits naturally in a couple decks. Obviously, one of the things you're going to say is Ray, right? Because then it's a 2/5 with Sentinel, but just an overall super solid unit that I think you'll see play in constructed format. You'll see play in limited format, and I think it's just a great card.
Yeah. A total animal in Ray. When I said there's too many cards to talk about, this was one that was on my list too.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about like Cassie and some of these other awesome cards. But
Yeah.
this guy's great.
I guess let's talk about Cassian real quick. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. This guy's great. Go to Cassian.
the thing about Cassian is, like, where does it get played?
Yep.
I don't know.
That's
I don't know
the
this place
thing,
yet.
right? Like, I know where Populous, whatever dude's name, Populous Advisor gets played, right? I'm unsure of where he gets played.
I like Cassian. I don't see an immediate spot in anything. Granted, I play very little blue heroism, so like it could just be that we're waiting for something to pop up next set where he fits great. But I like the card. I don't see where he goes.
Yeah, right now Blue Hero wants to play Force,
Yep.
right? You get Anakin
Yeah.
Force, Han Force, right? We want to play Force, and he's not a Force user, obviously, if you watch the show. So, to me, this card's amazing. He just doesn't have a home that I'm coming up with yet. So, his time will come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Han goes back to not Force, right?
I don't think it'll happen before rotation. But.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, the only deck that I'm even remotely considering this in that I play in any form or fashion is Kaz Blue, right?
Yeah.
And because I could shield
That
it.
doesn't really help you very much, though.
It doesn't. No, that's the state in which we're at, right? Okay, let's go on to the next one, and we'll go on. What's the next color after blue? It is
It's
green. Kyle?
I'll get to start again. I thought we were going to reverse it. All right.
Okay, well, wait. Well, I guess Cassian's fair. I did the Populous Senator, so I guess Sharky, you're up.
Funny story about green. I don't have anything on my list that is
Okay,
green.
cool. I will
Except I see one right now. I'm going to take it.
Okay, take it.
Part of gas.
Okay.
Right there. Go back up. Part of gas. I'm not super excited to play any real green decks coming up. That being said, there are some janky ones that if you can get wide enough with officials, part of gas becomes a huge problem.
Yeah.
And it's not like it never happens either. So I would keep an eye on finding a way to break this guy, mostly because it's super fun and it might be good enough, but I can't say that with any certainty. That's all I have.
Kyle, any thoughts on Partagast?
I don't like him at all. I'm glad you grabbed him just so we could say his name. But again, to your point, use the word janky. I think this guy comes up in fun decks. I don't think this guy's a player in the meta.
I've been testing him in a Mon deck with Cobb, and I haven't loved it. When it works, it's ridiculous.
I have him in a Wat Tambor
Yeah.
officials deck, and it's dumb, but when it hits, it hits.
Yeah, so dumb. But, cool unit. I bet we get some great art on this. I think we've already seen the propaganda for this, right?
Yeah,
So,
it looks good.
very cool. Okay, I'll take it more in a serious direction for once. And there's a lot of really good green cards. I think that there are a lot of cards that are specifically good in some decks. I think there are a lot of cards that are like epically good in other decks. But honestly, the one to me that I think is like the most impressive overall is this, and I know it's ridiculous.
I know where you're going.
It's the Renowned Dignitaries.
Yep.
And it's in a very specific type of deck, and it won't apply everywhere. But I don't think we've ever really seen a card in the game that can heal, do damage, resource, exhaust, protect, shield. I don't think we've seen anything that could do anything at the pace in which this can in the right build. And that's the Renowned Dignitary. Like I said, it's a 6 cost, 5/6 with Overwhelm. When played, heal 2 damage from your base for each friendly official unit. I've had games where I've healed 24 in one action.
Multiple times. I've seen you do it.
Yep. Yeah, this card to me is I play a lot of Hearthstone. This is a Hearthstone card. This card's interesting. There's a lot of effects like this in Hearthstone that are kind of blanket, like circle of healing type effects that just come down and just splash the board with a large effect. It is a total reverse, right? You feel like you're winning, you feel like you're winning, you feel like you're winning, then all of a sudden they're like, I'll heal everything. And you're like, oh.
Oh no!
I guess I'm not.
It's like one of those
it's a
things
very
where
interesting card.
it slows down the pace of play instantly because whatever your opponent thought they were gonna do, they're no longer doing, right? And like I said, it probably is a little bit janky, but that pace is just. Is there another example you guys could think of like that does that?
Honestly, if he was the only official, it'd still be solid. Healing just 2 damage is good, and this guy's gonna heal probably 4 to 6 minimum.
Right. So
this card was fun because I hadn't read this card until somebody played it on me, and I was like, "What now?
Did this just glitch? Did this just
Surprise!
glitch? Yeah, right. Also, bomb. It has a great body.
Hey, what rarity is it? What rarity is it?
Uncommon.
Weird.
Again, he asked hypothetically and not implying anything at all. But yeah, great card, man. And I love like the art too, right? Like you got the Mon Calamari in the middle, nice crew of people, good stuff. Okay, Kyle, you're up.
All right, I'll take an obvious one. Give me a Mina.
Yeah.
If we don't mention Mina, somebody in the comments will ask.
Where's Mina?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question here is this the best 2-drop printed ever? Right? Is this the best 2-drop they put in the game? Right? When I first read this card, I thought, oh, that's just Yoda. It's just not Force Yoda. Not realizing that she costs 2, not 3.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So, I mean, a 2/4 for 2 that's going to give you restore and then even replace herself by drawing a card, when she dies. We keep talking about Rey. Maybe it's time to give that Rey deck a chance again, right? This slot's in there too.
Yeah.
This card is just obviously solid. It's going to see massive play in all formats. It's an insane turn 1 play. It's great.
And not only that, right? Like Sharky says, what's the rarity? It's an uncommon again, right? Just adding to the riches of that uncommon pool. Man, we got Gunji in Heroic Command last set. We had Battlefield Marine, right? Obviously we still have, but wow, just the 2/4 restore and you get to draw a card. I guess the one downside you could say is like, let's hypothetically say this goes into a version of Sabine that's not playing Rebels and stuff, or like an aggro green red deck. Typically those cards are a lot red, so you might have a hard time turning on the disclose. But if I'm searching for a lack of ability to disclose as the major downfall, then like I think it says a lot about the card.
Well, it's a good point. She's a 2-drop, so you're playing her immediately, and she's probably dying early on. Most 2-drops do. So you do have to think about your resourcing early on, right? Because you're going to want to keep the disclose turned on. You don't want to risk losing her and not drawing a card, probably. So it does add that level of intrigue to the game.
But beautiful card. I hope we get a prestige here. My guess is that we will, right? I mean,
yeah, we'll see, but probably.
Yeah, I mean, I know she wasn't super popular. She was in a couple episodes of the Clone Wars, but great episodes. I thought, good arc, but also just like, come on, give me the good shiny stuff. Okay, I will go to the next unless you have another green one, Sharky.
I can pick one, but I think you're gonna pick it for me.
Well, I'll try. I'll do my best. I think it's Queen Amidala is the one that I'm the most interested in out of the remaining. There's also some really cool ones too, like Ahsoka's cool, etc.
I do have one more addition then if it's not. Yeah. So that wasn't what I was thinking, but this is another good one.
So I just think Queen Amidala is a great 5-drop, right? It gets a when played effect. It has a damage reduction effect. It has the traits we're looking for this set. It fits in decks that are like the Mon Mothma Unity of Purpose style. Obviously, it fits in like if you're ever going to play like Han 2 green again, which obviously I love that deck. It fits great there. I think you're playing a 4-cost, 5 power, 1 health with 2 spies to come along with it. Overall, I think the spies have been the best executed token so far. Yeah, and we're only a couple weeks in. But I think it's just great overall. And, I think if you're playing heroic green in any form, you probably have to ask yourself, is this card better than the other 5-drop that I'm going to play? And it's crazy to say, but that might even include Poe in some situations. Not all, but some.
I can see that. I think that she's the best legendary that we got revealed in the whole set, which I know isn't a high bar at the moment, in my opinion. But I do think she's very solid at the absolute least. And I think that ability is going to be pretty relevant once it's going to be super relevant once rotation hits. But I also think it'll be relevant once she hits the board this set as well.
Kyle, any thoughts?
He said the words best legendary, and something in the back of my head is saying that's not right, but I can't come up with which one's better. We'll get there.
Well, I mean, it might be Cassian, right? But there's no deck for him to go in right now, right? Like, so that's the hard part. All right, what's the card you were thinking about, Sharky?
Trade route taxation.
Okay, that's a great one too.
That is the one where it is the plot card. I believe it costs 2, and it says if you control more units than your opponent, they can't play events this turn. I believe that's almost word for word. I probably missed a little bit of it.
Choose an opponent. If you control more units than opponent, they can't play events for this phase.
Exactly. So it being a plot card is good. If I was planning to play a green deck, this would probably go into all of them in some capacity, whether it's sideboard or main deck. I'm not sure. However, the ability to turn off events. I mean, we've seen people do that. Like, that's how you beat control decks with a lot of the mid-range to soft control guys. You ramp to relentless, like Kyle likes to do, and say, no, you can't. This is a similar kind of effect that you can pull from the row when you flip. You can also just play it from hand for 2. Both of those are good.
Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah, I read this card, and we've got a friend we've been playing some hard control, and I just want to play this card on. I think this card is very interesting. I like that this effect exists, right, to protect some of these go wide strategies potentially. Right, the problem with go wide strategies has always been mass removal. But now you have a way to protect yourself, potentially multiple times a game on your plot turn, and then you could obviously just play it from hand, right? Yeah. So, you might be able to turn off their ability to wipe your board multiple times, and that'll let you get there. So, I think this card's going to see some action.
And then from another perspective, right? Like, I think this might make my Thrawn sideboard for Thrawn Data Vault, right? Because I have to put this to the test. This is a lot of theory because, surprise, surprise, earliest set, I don't have many teammates volunteering to play control mirrors. But I think Thrawn, that deck, is always going to have more units out than its opponent, with the Cobbs, with the cycling, with, all the different things. So I think that might be a way to be a little bit of a mirror breaker as well, potentially. I think it's, like Kyle said, it's cheap. You could play it multiple times per game. You could plot it. You could not plot it. It's just a very great, strong card overall.
Yeah, great.
So we're done with green. Some honorable mentions as we move through. I think
I only got one pick. Can you believe that?
Give another pick. What do you want? Come on, baby. Come on.
Do you want something fun, or do you want the cards that are good?
Give me the card that you could make an argument.
You get one choice. Pick it.
Hurry
up. All right, I'll pick the other good. I'll pick the other good, obvious one that nobody said. Unveiled Might. Yeah, this card's gonna be all over the place. Like failing to mention it is a mistake. This is going to be great. And like, again, we said Ray a lot this pod, so maybe we need to be trying that out. But, Ray, part of her fragility on her flip turn was that she could get got, right? Not if she comes out with this on, right? The other one is going to be an obvious choice is going to be Sabine, right? Sabine's a little terrifying when she flips into this on turn 4, right? So This is a card you're going to see, obviously good. So I wanted to mention it.
Yeah, and I think, to that effect, there are a couple cards just to rapid fire through that I think are really interesting. I think Chancellor Palpatine is interesting in the right build. You get 2 spy tokens, and they could be readied if you have a leader unit. Pretty conditional, only really good in certain spots. I think generally speaking,
Sentinels if the leader unit, but yeah.
Yeah, isn't that what I said?
You said ready, but ready is the other Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah. And then I think just the other one I want to shout out is the Imperial Dark Trooper. Villainous finally got their Battlefield Marine, which I think is cool. Outside of that, Captain Typho, Ahsoka, there's some cool ones, and I like to see some balance. I think sometimes for green you get a pretty bad run of things. All right,
one real quick dishonorable mention to Krennic. He's one of my favorite characters. And I feel like they did him dirty here. I hate that card. It has no imagination. It sucks, and it makes me mad because I like Krennic. So I'll give a dishonorable mention.
You have Krennic like that, and Jar Jar like this. A 2/1 for 2 that gives you a +2 on plot. Like
How dare they make Jar Jar good? Like they did Jar Jar correctly the first time. Right? They made him They made him awful, and they did him dirty with the art.
Mhm.
And this time they gave him respect, which I don't like.
So obviously, like, we're going through all these cards. We're doing our best to hit some from every color. If you want a more in-deep dive, in-depth look at things, we're going to be doing our limited rankings and then probably also regular rankings in our spreadsheet. So we'll hit all the cards at some point. We're just trying to do our favorites now. All right, going on to red. I think it's my pick. If not, I'll cut the line and go ahead. I think it's a super easy choice. I think there's one card that I'm just super, super excited about. I know everyone's probably gonna think it's Sinta, but I'll leave the obvious stuff for Kyle just to make him happy. For me, it is Karis Nemec. I'm really excited about this card. I think the concept of having a hidden unit that's a 3/2 would be better if it's 3/3, but 3/2, 2-drop, replaces itself with a readied spy. I'm really interested in this card. I think it'll fit in aggro style matchups. I think it'll fit basically everywhere that's playing red hero. And I don't know. As a longtime Sabine player, the first thing that I thought was, man, like every set there's like 1/2 drop that I kind of hate playing or kind of just play because I want the extra cards and want the ability to aggressively mulligan. And now I feel like I've really found a unit that rounds out the supply, and that's our friend Karis Nemec.
I like this guy a lot. I've been using him in Cassian decks of all varieties, and that's about the only red hero I'm playing right now, but it's a really good card.
Yeah, hard to argue with this one. This one's going to see play. It powers up Sabine. It powers up some other, relevant decks as well too. So, you said you weren't taking Sinta because it was obvious, but I think this one
I had to bust you a little bit. So, with that being said, would you like to talk about Sinta, Kyle?
We have to. Okay, so Sinta, I think, is probably the contender for the best card in the whole set, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
This card, and the reason I say that is not because she's good, but because she enables decks that were on the fringe of the meta. Really, what she unlocks is 6 costs and above leaders, primarily 6 cost leaders, and of those, primarily pilots. So you get Luke, you get Boba, you get Anakin, right? Some of these leaders that have always been like, man, if they just flipped one turn earlier, it might be a different story. Not anymore. Sinta, get this action sheet, throw an extra body out, just be this real monster of a threat. I'm not saying anything crazy here. Everyone sees this exactly the same way. So I'm not adding a lot of value outside of just saying, I really like that this enables those 6-drop leaders.
Yeah. Strong card. Me like. Sharky, real quick, what rarity is this?
It looks like an uncommon to me. That's interesting. It's almost like we're developing a pattern here.
This card is crazy. I mean, it's a rebel. It's a 5/5. Like, this card, I think, would be playable and good if it was a 3/4.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already seen people half joking about banning this card, right? It's like, it's not even out. People are already like, get it out of here.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah. I think there are certain things in this game that are like timeless in certain ways, right? Resource cheating, action cheating, and then, you let us know in the comments what the third one is, if there's any of them. But with Sinta, I mean, man, a whole new world for like Odd Han Tarkentown, right? Like a whole new world for, being worried about
going to be a problem.
Yeah, being worried about a bamboozle flip to a pilot, right? Like, oh man, Luke Data Vault when you're flipping onto a giant red 5, boom, boom, boom. Like, it's just a lot of really cool stuff. And I think it's going to be really strong. I think there's probably not going to be many red decks that aren't playing hard control that don't play this.
Yeah, it's a good deck. I can only think of one red deck I wouldn't run her in, and that's just because of the traits on it. So
are you thinking about, that's an interesting one, right? Because some people might say, and obviously we're talking about Cad Bane here. Cad Bane flips on 6. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I just know that you hate playing one thing on 6.
Yes, absolutely hate it. That's probably the only deck I wouldn't play her. Only red deck I wouldn't play her in.
Mm-hmm. And
would you run her in Sabine? Right? She's too late for that.
No, but
okay, fair. But I don't play that red deck.
And like maybe Sabine red, right? Where you're trying, you don't have Rebel Assault there. Maybe, who knows, right? But
maybe you delay the flip on that one. Yeah, I mean, 4-drop leaders.
Okay, so that's the last thing I want to talk about here, because I think this is actually the only place in which all of us, or maybe Kyle, can provide additional added value. Are there any leaders that you're thinking about that you're saying this is no longer a 5 flip leader, this is a 6 flip leader because of Sinta? Or do you think that difference in stat just really gets too crazy? I'll go first. and I'll say if there's one that I've actually thought about quite a bit is the Han Tarkentown stuff. I haven't been super pumped with it. I haven't spent a ton of time working on it yet, but I thought about it, right? And I think if a card is that good to make you even consider it, it's worthy of discussion.
Han was the one that jumped to mind for me as well. I could see theoretical uses for like Quinlan or Talzin, but I don't know that either of them really wanted to lay their flip turn just because they're so powerful on 5 in the first place. So
Sure.
like Han probably takes the cake, and I can't come up with a better one.
Was your question just, is there any 5-drop leader that I would consider this in? Han is a 5,
No,
right?
is there
Or is
any-
it
yeah.
6?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Han is
I'm
a
saying-
6.
I'm saying odd Han.
No.
Pilot Han.
Oh,
Right?
Pilot Han.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I disagree. I think Pilot Han has other plot cards I'd rather be doing and flipping on 5. I don't think I'm
Sure.
going to delay for this.
Yeah, I think it might be something to consider, right? I don't know. I have to test it, but like I think there's world that exists that like you might be delaying your flip turn if you don't have a great board anyway, right? To try to
I generally
maximize.
actually agree with Kyle on this one. You probably have better things to do. However, there are situations I could see where you're in that this would be a good backup plan, like a one of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the
It's
whole-
something that I'm thinking about.
The whole Pilot Han deck is mess him up on 5. If I'm having to wait a turn, I think I've broken what I'm trying to do.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what's interesting about like these leaders and different cost structures, right? Like we see Padme being a 2/8, right? Which is a completely new stat line. We'll be talking about leaders a little bit next week before we get into pre-release stuff. All right. Sharky, you're
I
up.
believe I'm up, right? This one is going to shock nobody. This is the Sudden Ferocity plot. I love this card.
Yeah.
It's very fun. I started using it mostly with Dedra and Dedra Tarkentown. However, I've found uses for it in Cad Bane. I've found uses for it in Cassian. I mean, this card is flip your leader, do 3 extra damage, and yeah, okay, you might get taken out, but like this is a great card, and it's almost the same amount of actions to like flip your. It's the same amount of actions to flip your leader and then play a hot shot from the row. So like I do a lot of that with Cad Bane, and this is a whole different kind of method for it, partially because you can flip it and suddenly Cad's a 5 attack back. So like instead of trading a bunch of units into a 2 attack back guy, now they have to trade like actually lose their units while doing it. Sudden Ferocity goes into Odd Han Tarkentown very well because you can play this and then flip and then ready a bunch of resources and play another plot. Like there's all kinds of janky stuff you can do while making massive threats on the board by putting this card on them.
I guess the one note is that we don't know if that's the exact way plot's going to work yet. They were actually talking about that in the Judge Discord today. One of our teammates was letting us know about like the sequencing and order. So we'll talk about that as we get a little bit more clarity. In a perfect world, that'd be amazing, right?
No, we
Even if you get to play the plot ready resources and not plot again, you still have 5 ready resources and plus 3 damage on Han.
I think the one that's up in question is, can you play a plot for 3 resources from your first gap and then play 6 more worth or something, 5 more, etc.
Well, that's because you don't get to replace the card. The card you smuggled down does not get to be replaced in that action sequence. That's where the problem is.
Well, they haven't they haven't ruled on it yet, so I'll be really interested to see how that comes out in the next couple weeks. Exactly.
Like this makes Odd Han very scary if you have no way of dealing with him immediately.
And I think it just speaks to like the flexibility of the card. I could see an argument for putting this on a Sabine and then Rebel assaulting on her flip turn. Right. There's a lot of really cool things you can do, and this card's going to be seeing play in all formats. This is going to be one of the most sought after cards in Limited, I believe.
Good thing it's a common.
Yeah,
just good. You're going to see it all over the place in aggro. Right?
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Anything else in red that you guys are super pumped on? I got a couple to think about, but
I have at least one more if nobody picks it.
Same, I do. Yep.
Hit it. What do you got, Kyle?
I mean, there's so many good ones, but the other one is One Way Out. One Way Out is a card that I thought, okay, maybe sideboard, but as I've been playing it more, or at least testing with it more, it just kind of occurred to me that, wait a minute, this is Force Lightning, this is Heroism Force Lightning, and a pump, right, at the same time, right? And so I didn't really think of all the use cases for it until I started to play it more, and then it would just come up, and I'm like, oh, it's great here. Oh, it's great here. Super Laser Tech, not anymore, right?
Cheer
and I overwhelmed
as well.
Yeah, Super Laser Tech. I mean, the first one that everybody said was Chirrut, right?
That's the
but
main
then you
one.
run it. You run into Super Laser Tech, and I'll say it out loud. But I wanted to do this to Jordan once it came up. But I played against a Thrawn deck, and I was running these. This card decimates that. I just shut down everything you want to do, right? That gets
That's
to it
actually really
multiple
cool. I
times a
hadn't even
game.
thought of that.
I'm
Yeah.
just running everything over, and no win defeateds for you, right?
Yeah.
I think this card, you'll find as you test with it that there's more and more times that you're like, oh yeah, this is going to crush them right here. This is really good. So yeah, this card has been growing on me anyway.
Anything that has any sort of a on attack effect, on play attack, on defeat, whether it's Churret with a damage reduction, obviously that's the one that Kyle mentioned as the top of everybody's mind, but like on top of that, you have a ton of damage reduction things outside of that. You have ways that, people have like full decks built around units staying alive based on X or Y, and this just stops that from happening. And whether it's a ramp, whether it's being able to push damage, whether it's stopping a unit from being created. We were just talking about Karis Nemec, right? Where he has a great ability, not anymore, right? So
that's a great point.
A lot of really cool stuff. And I think that some of these decks that rely on these incredibly powerful situations, Thrawn being one of them, can fall apart if they get disrupted in a way they're not expecting,
I agree.
So
this is a great one.
Really fun card. A rare. Who know you can print good rares. It's hard to imagine that it's fitting in. Okay, I got one that I think is really cool, and that's the Outer Rim Constable. Super basic, vanilla, 2 cost, 3/1, but it's a when played you may defeat an upgrader, and it fits on theme with the officials this set, which I think is really cool. And also, like, upgrades are scary, bro. We're talking about all these cool things that plot can bring to pilots, sudden ferocity, unveiled might, all these things. That sucks. You play this and you discard one of them. So I think this is a card that we're going to see in a ton of sideboards for the next, 18 months.
As often as you see Fang Fighters. Yep. I mean, it's basically the new Fang Fighter. I'll pick the last one that I have on my list, and I'll make sure it's not the Cad Bane centric one. Let's go find Aggressive Negotiations and look at that card.
Okay, that card sucks.
Phenomenal card. This card can go insane. You can play it in a Dedra deck where you're drawing a bunch of cards. You can do it in a deck like Cassian where you're flipping, attacking, claiming, and then just pumping it with Aggressive Negotiations to do it again. You can use it to end games. It's a very flexible card that can pump your deck, and honestly, it works in odd hot. Now that I'm looking at it, it's an odd card. Man, there's so many uses for this card. Even if it only ends up being Surprise Strike, it's still pretty good.
I like this card because it's going to force you to do preemptive math.
Yeah.
Meaning you always have to be worried about it, and you have to be paying attention because your opponent might be skipping resourcing just to fill their hand. They might skip resourcing the next turn to fill their hand. When you're doing your math of am I dead, and they're playing red, you need to remember this card, and then you need to be doing math ahead of time. So it's a good card.
It's an uncommon. So one thing that I would say is I would petition to change the name of this card to Cards in Hand ?
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Right. Because you're going to be asking that multiple times per game. I've lost probably 5 games late at night playing against Dedra, getting attacked for like 15, and just not paying attention, not realizing. And yeah, that's the way it goes. But great card. I think it's, again, similar to Emergency Powers, similar to a lot of the other stuff we've been talking about. It's different, right? It's approaching it from a perspective we haven't seen before. It's conditional in some ways, really cool in others, and extremely toxic in a majority of them, I'd probably say. All right, what's the next one we got going on here? Sharkies, you have any more for Cad? Kyle, you have any on the top of mind?
I'm just going to say I love Kira, so I love Topple, but we don't need to talk about it, so we can move on to Yellow.
And the Hunting Assassin Droid is cool for Cad, but fine elsewhere.
Yeah, the only other one that I'd like to mention just briefly is this Zayton Moj. Again, I've been just drawn to the interesting aspects of things where it's like, hey, for the first time, taking initiative has a separate effect of doing damage. And I think that's a really interesting concept. Is it going to be super good? I don't know. But I think it's, again, really interesting to see those types of things expanded set by set.
Yeah, there's just a lot of cards that are going to see play out of this set, which is really surprising. Like, we didn't mention Kaz or Luthenship,
Let's
or
call it war.
obviously
Yeah.
the Warrior
kinds of
Clan
reasons,
Ordo that's going to be in a million decks, right?
Yeah, I mean,
there's
Kaz
so
is
many playable
awesome with the
cards.
4/6, right? Like Chopper is really cool and annoying. Is it
menace.
good? We'll see. This giant full matrix thing, like the card that you could win with. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff, and we'll get it ranked as we get the spreadsheet out. All right. So now the card that everybody wants to talk about, obviously, ISB Agent.
Yep. We can win this one.
Sharky, take it away. Tell us why you like your boy.
Favorite card in the set. Let's find Garinden. He's right there. So back to what I believe Kyle was saying earlier on. It's the same concept with Gale and Urso, right? You get rewarded very well for knowing what your opponent is trying to do, and this guy really does a different way, but a good job of shutting that down. I personally love to play him in Cad Bane, as may be obvious by the Underworld tag, and things like flipping and calling Rivals Fall and taking the Rivals Fall that you know they're holding for you out of their hand. And the best part is they don't replace it. Like, I'm used to Bazine, who typically for me, it feels like every time I play her, replaces the same card with the card I just got rid of. This doesn't happen anymore. If you know what you're looking for, you can get rid of their entire hand. Theoretically, you can play this guy 3 times on flip. Like, that's insane. And even if you miss the first one, you're still taking 2 cards out of their hand. I love this guy. He is easily my favorite card in the set. And it's strictly Cad Bane centric, sure. But, like, you can play him in Palpatine and save yourself a bunch of time. I mean,
he probably goes.
This guy has
yellow.
Exactly. This guy has some crazy uses outside of Cad Bane as well. I'm very familiar with him because he was the first card I added to Cad Bane, and he has fit in. He's exceeded expectations.
Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be annoying. I'm going to hate it when Sharky plays this on me 3 times. Especially when he goes Bazine into this guy, is going to drive me nuts. But he fits that similar role of being super obnoxious, but also being rewarding knowledge, rewarding meta awareness, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Kyle. And when I say Kyle, I don't mean Kyle Sharkey. I mean Kyle Kraft. Does the combination of Garinden, who I said correctly there, if you're watching, and Bazine plus McClunky, etc., does that make the control matchup, the blue-green villain matchup, finally something salvageable? I don't want to hear Sharky's thoughts yet. I only want to hear Kyle Kraft's thoughts.
Well, this one, I think, to Sharky's point there, is a little scarier. So Bazine, to his example, I was in the top 8 of a PQ, and I got Bazined. I'm playing Kira, blue-green hero. He took a card I needed. I believe at the time it was Vader. But it top decked me into something even better at the time, right? So it wasn't always a punish. Sometimes it just helped me out, right? This card, no, it's going to just take the card I don't want them to take, and it's going to be the worst, right? Especially when he plays on turn 1, he just goes resupply, and I'm like, I hate you, right? Like, that sort of thing's going to happen, and it's going to be very punitive, where, unlike Bazine. So, yeah, I'm not going to love this.
So let me rephrase the question. You're getting ready for a PQ. A sector qualifier, you want to play Cad, you're just like loving Cad for some whatever reason, right?
Yeah, who doesn't that?
And you find out from your future self that the field is 35 to 40% hard control or blue-green villain. Does this combination make you feel empowered to play Cad in that spot?
Ooh, am I still answering?
Yes.
I'm gonna cosplay Sharky and say he's gonna say yes, but I'm gonna say no, right? I think that it's going to help, but it's not going to be enough to win.
Sharky, now, thank you for your patience. Give us the reason why we're wrong.
I think Kyle's wrong, but yes, the answer is yes, but only because it's not a silver bullet on his own. There are now enough tools, I think, that if you include Tip the Scale and Bazine, suddenly that controlled matchup doesn't look so scary anymore. And it doesn't mean it's an auto win, okay? But, like, compared to some of the previous sets' percentages, it's a lot closer to 50-50 and skill-based than it used to be. It used to just be, hey, look, I played Darth Vader and ambushed him. Oh, hey, look, I played the next thing. And, like, all right, I can't do anything. I have game into that now. Like, this is another tool. And this is a tool that, frankly, might be the best one of the 3. Like,
yeah, my problem is when you're hand stripping with these things, what are you actually doing on the board? You're populating the board with nothing units.
Like, this is a unit with discard effects. I'm not just playing Tip the Scale, right? I'm playing a unit with this. Cad Bane shoots something else for 2 at the same time, and I have Power of the Dark Side protection. Like, all of that on Cad's flip turn is massive because Cad's flip turn is pretty important in that matchup.
Yeah.
It's a good point. You mentioned power here, and this is a good end point to bring it in. I wonder how good power is going to be this set. If we're going to actually
Oh,
start to
man.
see less play. I mean, with all these tokens and all these multiple units and all these different ways of having power protection, am I ever really going to want to throw down a power of the dark side? I mean, it
I have
seems
no
like its
idea.
effectiveness is kind of on its way down.
It seems effective on resource 3, but even then it's questionable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, and also a point of like contention about should power be reprinted. I'm on in the camp that yes, I think that we should have that type of effect in a game. Should it be non-leader? Maybe. I think that might be fair. But I don't know if it matters if it's not going to be effective. If this is the new norm for board states, then who knows? But yeah, great card. Obviously, I'm busting your chops about the control thing, but there's no argument to make this makes the control matchup worse. You know what I mean? So obviously, cool card, and I'm happy it was printed, to be honest. All right.
Dude, the prestige looks great too. That's the other part of it.
All right, I'll go next, and I think to me, there's a lot of choices here that I really like. I think there's a lot of good yellow cards in the set, but there's one to me that stands out above them all in terms of design, in terms of about freaking time finally, and that's Bail Organa. And now all of a sudden, whether or not you like the effect or not on the on attack, we have a 2/4 in
Awesome.
in yellow heroic in an area in which the turn 1 plays have always been kind of ass. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, like, you have a paired R2, right? Like, if you're not running Han 1 and you have to ramp, or if you're not running Quinlan and you want like those like the exact type of ways to ping, I think it's always just been challenging. And when you compare like, the stats that green heroic has to the stats that these early 2-drops have in yellow, I just think that it really adds a lot to this archetype.
I would agree. I think Bail Organa is awesome.
Man, I don't see it. I don't like this card at all.
Really?
I guess he's going to get played, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I'm trying to turn on Anakin and I want to throw a card, how often do I want to throw a card from my hand to get a 0/2? It doesn't feel like it's something I want to do, and maybe I'm just totally wrong here. But like,
I think it depends on the deck.
Okay, let's
he's
say,
good in certain decks.
Let's say he's blank.
yeah. I mean, compare him to the green 2/4 that we just talked about with restore and draw you a card. This guy seems like total trash compared to that.
What if you're playing double yellow and you're not playing Han, which is something that might exist when Han goes away? You know what I mean?
Well, to your point, you mentioned the R2. I'd rather play the 2/4 R2 over this, right? The one that lets me go pitch and dig for another card. You've got L3. I think you've got other good 2-drops. Maybe it's not exactly a 2/4 stat line, but I think an L3 is better anyway.
I'd like this guy a lot in Padme, so it could just be the leader deck construction. So I don't know. I'm a fan.
I love the 2/4, and I think, obviously R2 is really good as well. Last set we had the Youngling Padawan, which is a 2/3. Before that, you have like the Crafty Smugglers, which is, obviously that's shielded. You have L3, which is shielded, and Smuggle. Both those cards are going to be gone relatively quickly. And I just think overall, as you stack up the heroic 2-drops in yellow and you compare them to other colors, it's like pretty severely lacking. And I like the ability. I think your point to turning on Anakin is well made, right? Like we haven't seen that much blue-yellow heroism yet for Anakin. Obviously, Han 1 blue was the main effector there, and that was a really easy deck to turn on Anakin with. So maybe it's a different archetype that's not Han 1 that allows you to turn him on easily as well.
Well, you know what? I think I'm up next, and I'll tell you the 2-drop I'd rather be playing in double yellow than this.
And
Do
what
it.
is it?
Come on, you know what it is.
Well,
It's
for the folks at home, use your words.
Yeah. It's the faith in your friends, right?
Yeah.
Faith in your friends is so your argument was that I need this in double yellow because I don't have good 2-drops in double yellow. Well, this is just way better, right? This is going to let me dig for a card. It's going to give me 2 units on board. I'm not losing a card out of my hand. This card has been surprisingly effective.
Yeah.
It's not really one that I considered. It's funny how you get into play testing and other people have ideas, and then you realize the power of cards when people use it against you. This card's super annoying. I do not like it when they play this turn 1, especially in Padme when they use it to disclose. They get a ping, they Tarkin time my thing.
Yeah.
They get 2 units and they go dig for a card. I'm like, I don't like this at all. Right? And so
I really like it too, but I do want to pour a little cold water. And I just think it's not so easy to pull off, especially if you're not running double yellow. I think if you're running yellow plus, you really need to be tilted towards yellow. Like what do you have? 10 other color cards if you want to make this happen, right? Like if you want to count this as a turn 1 play, I think your deck construction really needs to reflect that. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. You get card cycling, you get you get a lot of really cool stuff, but
I'll say in Padme with Tarkentown, right?
I have found it pretty easy to trigger in Padme Tarkentown as well, which basically looks a lot like Heroism CAD. So it might shock you that I like that deck. But I think it's a great
that's the one where it stands out. I think obviously with the disclose, with the ping and stuff like that. But I do want to caution though. Am I being over like protective? I think this is going to be not so consistent to pull off.
In my experience, I have not failed to pull it off yet, or not even had a chance where I've had a hand where I'm like, well, now I have to put down my favorite 2-drop because I can't make it work.
So what's the minimum amount of cards you could make this work in if you don't have any double aspects? Is it
3 cards?
3 cards. That's basically always what it has to be unless you have a double aspect, right?
Yeah. However, you do get to draw a card, so the card you draw does factor into that.
Yeah. So you play it, right? It's 1 yellow card, right? So in your opening hand of 6, you resource 2, right? And I just feel like it's easier said than done in certain spots. In Padme, I haven't had problems triggering it, and in Sabe, I've had not that many problems triggering it as well. But I wonder globally if it's really just reserved to those 2 decks, or
at least for now, it might be.
Yeah. All right, Sharky, you're up. What's the next card for Cat or another yellow deck?
Oh, let's be real here. You remember a few minutes ago we were just talking about the control matchup? Well, let me show you the other card that makes that one a little closer than it used to be as well. Go ahead and scroll over to Arrest.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the wrong ride. No. I faked him out because I thought the wrong ride
out.
is just so good.
It is not the wrong ride. I do think the wrong ride is good, but no, Arrest changes a lot of things because Arrest allows me to very easily take your best unit using an old card that no one else but me seems to run. Well, me and Raytan, I guess. It's called Unrefusable Offer. So for 4 resources, your biggest best unit is now my biggest best unit. Congratulations. You've been arrested by Cad Bane, the lawman.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good as you do, I don't think. I think in that very specific situation, it's good, but it requires,
It's a 2-card combo.
Yeah.
Against longer decks, and by then usually you have seen a lot of your deck. Yeah. So consistency with it has not been an issue. It does have other uses for other decks, though, especially like the aggro CAD decks that we're starting to see as well, though I don't know that those really survive Secrets of Power in the first place, but these can get rid of, since they don't really run Relentless Pursuit, they can now have a way to deal with Chirrut that shows up. They can get rid of him for a turn and still push a lot of extra damage. Same goes for any of the other yellow villainy decks in general. They have other options here, and it's not quite as good if you're not also running the Unrefusable Offer trick with it. I guess it's not a trick, it's combo, but it effectively says that like I now have more ways to trigger Unrefusable Offer than I did previously, so the deck is now more consistent, and this is relatively cheap, so I can do something else on that same turn.
Yeah, so Kyle, I think that if you wanted to give me a hard time about Bail Organa, you better have a bunch of stuff to say here, or I'm gonna be real pissed.
I feel the same way. Yeah, this guy. So yes, I think I lean towards your second point of using this in a more aggressive strategy, just to temporarily remove something while I'm shoving damage on the board. I don't see it being as effective in a long game strategy. I mean, aren't you just 2-for-1ing yourself? Like if you take my Luke, you're playing Arrest, you're playing Unrefusable Offer. You played 2 cards to take my 1 card. Wouldn't just single target removal be better? I mean, I think you're going to say, well, then I get to hit you with the Luke. I guess if you're finishing the game, then that's great.
That's exactly.
But I don't know if you are.
It's not there for Luke. Luke can be captured by Cad Bane. That's an easier one. Like I don't need it for Luke. I need it for Devastator. I need it for Avenger. I need it for I guess Cad can grab Avenger too, but I need it for the bigger ships that are like, hey, by the way, the game just got locked out. Heck, I even like it taking Snoke. Sometimes it's not great to have Cad Bane holding on to Snoke for long periods of time. So you can play this. Snoke comes down to slow down Cad Bane is a typical play line because then he becomes a 5/5 and they can easily remove him. But then I just Unrefusable Offer, arrest Snoke. He's on my side. Cad Bane lives.
Well, I don't think
there's lots of options.
I don't think either of us are saying that if you could do this into Unrefusable Offer, that would be a bad outcome, right?
That's the only time I'm planning to use it with Cad midrange.
Okay.
It is an enabler for that. It is something to help finish games after you've pushed a decent amount of damage. A lot of times it gets locked out once I've pushed a lot of that damage, and they say, nice, here's Devastator, your last unit just died. Sucks to suck. Here's Avenger, your last unit just died. Sorry. And most of the time, that's enough damage to win the game.
I could see that perspective.
Aren't you doing the same thing with Change of Heart with one card?
No, because Change Your Heart, you have to give it back and it's alive, and they get to keep it. At least
Okay,
this
but
way,
I
even
thought
if
I
it
was trying to
doesn't,
finish the game.
even
If
if
I
it
get it
doesn't
back, what
finish,
does it
hey,
matter if I'm
look, if it
dead?
doesn't finish the game, the unit still dies. They have to find another unit.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to see it in practice.
Also,
We'll have to see it in
4
practice.
resources by comparison to the 9 you would need to combine it with Cad Bane.
So what I'll say is that I think it's a really cool mechanic that they added base capture, right? Where it's a non-unit thing. Will it play out? Find out next time on this edition of us fighting about stupid shit. Put a name in the comment down and let us know if you're excited for that episode. All right. So now let's go to the card that I thought you were going to talk about, and that's the wrong ride. As I scroll all the way down to yellow, you faked me out, and this time I'm going to be smart and I'm going to hit right click, open a new tab. So the wrong ride, man, I think this is just an excellent card for just about any yellow deck. I think obviously it's a really tempo oriented strategy, but 3 cost, exhaust 2 enemy resources. You do this with a 5 cost leader, and you could play a 2-drop, you could play an upgrade, you could surprise strike, you have a lot of options, and it gives your opponent less options. So for instance, like this is something that I think that is pretty interesting in Adhan Tarkentown, like we were talking about earlier, like on the turn in which you get to spend the most resources, they spend the least resources. It just seems like a thing that I would be interested in.
Big gulf.
How about you, Kyle? Are you interested in the wrong ride?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. This is exactly the card I was thinking of before when you were talking about delaying Adhan for Cinta.
Yeah.
Like, no. I want to do this,
Sure.
right? Or the red one that gives me 3
And don't get me
attack.
wrong, right? Like I mentioned there, like I think this is optimal. I just wonder if Cinta is that good that you have to start considering those alternate play lines. That's all.
Yeah. No, this card's great, right? This card is obviously going to see play mostly in aggressive strategies, at least the way I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure that even in mid-range or longer control type games that this has value. The other deck that obviously pops to mind for me is Sabine, right? So Sabine yellow, especially the space strategy. If on the Sabine flip turn, I'm able to pull this off plus a 1-drop, maybe it's the BD8, the droid, that then gives Sabine Saboteur and, it buffs her on the ground. I mean, a four resource Sabine yellow flip turn that starts with this card plus a BD and hit me in the base sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm playing something like Kira, right? Like I'm already trying to stabilize on 4 and I just did nothing on 4 probably and got smacked in the base for a bunch going to 5.
Yeah. And
I would agree.
There's one archetype that we don't really speak about that much because it doesn't really exist anymore, that I think this would just be absolutely killer in. And that's like the old school blue yellow control deck, right? Like the ultra hard control that is set up for that long mill game. And I think that if you're playing another control deck and you're able to exhaust 3 of their resources, man, I just think it's a really powerful effect. But I fully agree that it's a tempo card, but I wouldn't be surprised in the lifespan of this rotation set if we see this pop up throughout the game going 10, 11 resources, and all of a sudden I'm playing a big capital ship or something massive and you can't.
I don't know that I agree with that use of it. I do think it's more aggro-centric, and this is a more widely useful card than Arrest. I picked Arrest because it's specifically for my Cad Bane.
And it's cool.
The Long Ride is probably the more widely useful, aggressive kind of deck because a lot of times, like Kyle was saying, Kira's holding something for resources worth to use, right? So he's not going to hold a 2-drop at that point. This actually shuts their whole turn off. I can see that Adhan is doing something similar. I think I'm having trouble coming up with other ones, but like maybe Cal Kestis finally becomes something somewhere. I do think that once rotation hits, he'll be at least good enough, and this exhausts the resources and then exhausts their units when he flips. Like he's got all kinds of things he can do with that. But I don't see it being as effective for too many like 6 flip plus leaders. I don't know that anybody flipping that late is really going to want to play the Wrong Ride. Not never. I'm sure there's some situations, but for the most part, I'm not seeing it for anybody later than 5.
I think one thing to think about is when we have this information warfare, like we've been talking about it, and you might know that your opponent needs to play a 5-drop this turn, right? As opposed to being able to play a 3-drop. And I think that's where that could really come in as you're getting later and later, whether you're talking about, it's a blue yellow archetype that doesn't exist anymore or something that's a little bit hardier. I think we're going to see this in a lot of spots, but also like you could play this without plot, It's
true.
Similar to a lot of different spots there. And I think the one that I would be the most afraid of is that Han Tarkentown, Odd Han, because just the resource inequality there, where they're spending upwards of 9-10 resources potentially, and you're spending 3. That just feels terrible.
None, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? Yeah. So, and you might be setting yourself up to deal with like the Sabine. I think Sabine's a great example, right? Because in Sabine Yellow, you really need to set up to deal with that flip turn, and all of a sudden the stuff that you set up for could be all null and void, right? Like you're a lot of times you don't have a 1 drop to play, right? Like you don't have a 2 drop to play. Like there's a lot of situations that are really challenging, and that concept of being time locked, I expect to come back into vogue this set, kind of similar that we saw in JTL with all the heavy Kira play and stuff like that.
Yeah.
More rewarding knowledge here, right? Like if I'm playing against the Sabine Yellow on my 3 resource turn, I might suboptimally claim. I might give up some damage and claim because I know going into 4, I need to spend my stuff immediately, right? Like I'm not getting resources next turn. I'm not going to get blown out, so I don't take that 2 damage with Force Crafty to base. I claim so that I can immediately spend my 4 the next turn, right? Yeah. I'm imagining if I'm playing Han Blue, I need to drop Chirrut on the board desperately, and I'm not going to get locked out, right? So I'm going to forego damage, claim, so I can immediately spend 4.
Yep.
You could also go the other way with it and keep things that cost 1 or 2 in your hand that you otherwise normally wouldn't.
Sure.
So if you're planning on, if you expect that to happen, you could at least have some kind of insurance as a backup plan too. So it does change some of the resourcing patterns too.
It goes back to the age-old adage when I was playing Django, and it's that is out of sequence triple dark raid or ruthless raider better than no triple dark raid or ruthless raider, right? Like, is something better than nothing? And if so, make the choice accordingly. And I think that's going to be a theme of this set overall. So we went through the colors. There are some kind of cool, either non-aspected, neutral aspected, or heroic or villainy. I would say it's probably a little bit less shifted than the sets previous. Real quick, I'll just call one out that I thought was kind of interesting, and that's Elia Kane, right? She's basically the scanning officer for plot, 4 cost, 3/6, raid 1. When played, look at 3 enemy resources. You may defeat one of them, and you get to replace it. But overall, I think that it's a pretty balanced set with a lot of power and different colors. As we kind of go through it, we did our best to pick and choose a few from each section so we could have a little bit of a well-rounded conversation. Real quick, are there any cards that you guys are pissed that we didn't get to talk about?
There was one that popped into my mind. I just want to mention, I want to hear the stories about how people lose to the new Obi-Wan. Whatever ridiculous card they ripped off your deck and beat you over the head with, and you like, I had no way of losing this game until they attacked me with Obi-Wan and stole my super laser blast, blasted the board, and then came back, or something stupid like that, right? That's going to happen. I don't know that it's good, but it's going to be hilarious.
I don't know if it's good, but it's cool. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of competition in that spot at 4 yellow. Right. We mentioned them earlier. There's more coming. And generally speaking, the cards in your opponent's deck are better for your opponent than they are for you. But it is really cool to get to play it and to get to sequence it in a way that it's, effective. And I think there are going to be some crazy swings, especially in the limited environment where you're just have no recourse to deal with it. But great card, and I'm almost positive we're gonna get a prestige there, but I bet it's gonna be sweet.
Yeah, he's gonna be a force user, right? So when he rips your opponent's force lightning, that's gonna be great.
Yeah,
surprise.
So, like I said, we're gonna be going through all of these cards as we get our ranking spreadsheets together for limited and for regular. With the pre-releases coming up, we have to get on our high horse and get going and making this content for you. So we're gonna be working on those over the next couple weeks here. We're going to hit on the meta update coming in just to close things out as we get 1 week deeper into Legends of the Force. But before we do that, we have a little bit of team news and team expansion, which is really excited to talk about. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been working on and then finalizing a merger with a team from Utah called the Wash Dash Wookiees, a great friend of ours. We've been training with them since Galactic's having a great time, some great players, some great placements, some very creative deck builders, and really just great people overall. And we're super excited to welcome them into the Cantina Crew.
Yeah, should be a good time. I mean, I've gotten to I got to meet them a couple of times now as we like to fly over the mountain and take their PQs from them. We've made some friends and it's been a good time. So,
Yeah.
it's just, I think that's been the most exciting part about this game. It's just making friends,
Yeah.
having people to hang out with, right? Obviously we like talking about the cards and the meta and getting all these things, but it's just evolving your friend group, right? I find myself sitting on Discord while I'm doing dishes all the time with you guys and those guys, right? I've just got more. We're just hanging out and talking cards, and so to have more people brought into the group is awesome.
Yeah, and
we're not quite Bothan level expansion yet, but
well, I think that brings us to about maybe 15-ish on our hardcore competitive team, maybe even a little bit more. And overall, I think just from a manpower perspective and woman power perspective, I'm really excited to be able to have a little bit more of like division of responsibilities as we're building towards these huge events. And you probably know a lot of the players. We've mentioned them here on the podcast quite a bit. Travi Dead, he has a great YouTube channel. He's one of our new teammates. We're going to be bringing him on to the podcast and some other guests here and there, as well as the rest of the team. Like you guys have met Paul and Makai and Steve, and we're going to be getting everybody in here as we get stuff going. And Kyle, you better be careful because, now as they have we're going to be getting the calls. Hey man, you mind if we stay here, we go to this PQ, they're going to be taking our PQ. So I think the good news is that they're all our PQs now. Right. And whether they're Utah or Colorado, we're together. And that's what you need. You need people who are dedicated to improve that you can stand spending time with, right? Like those are like the two things that are just like good people that like to play. And we've been already having a great time in our Discord play testing over the past couple days and couple weeks. Kyle and I really hit it hard after Philly last week. Sharky and the rest of the gang, they probably 4, 5, 6, 7 days ahead of us as we were really focused on the limited stuff. But it's been a pleasure to have them with us. And like I said, we're going to be getting them on here and we'll be having some great content and some great ideas from the deck building construction perspective. And overall, we're just super pumped. And I know the whole rest of the team is as well. So with that being said, let's go into the results in which the expansion of our team will hope to influence as we get towards a meta analysis that matters for us for competitive play. So like I said, last week, we're going to be hitting on these until the season ends because we know that there are a lot of people out there that are listening and watching that have PQs coming up. We don't want to leave you hanging, but I hate to tell you, it's a lot more of the same, right? We've seen some leaders change from perspective in terms of how they're being played. We see Han Solo 2 being the most played unit this past week, most played leader with Han Solo, Spark of Rebellion right behind it, Cad in that third area. But from a top 8 perspective, it looks a little bit different, right? We have seen Cad going a little bit further down, Sabine going a little further up, with both Hans really staying towards the top of the meta. I think the one thing that we could say has changed, and we've been shouting at the rooftops, right? Boba has finally not been a super represented leader in terms of this meta.
We're finally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of takeaways. Boba is the good one there. The other one that you mentioned a little bit there is Cad got taken to the woodshed here a little bit from a conversion perspective. When you showed the overall play rate, he was number 3. When you show the conversion rate, he disappeared. Yep. So, he had a tough week. Sharky, I'll let you talk to it a little bit, but I think some of that is just figuring out how to play against this deck.
Sure.
Right. The overall play rates are still very similar, but I think people have kind of learned how to deal with the weenies.
I've been saying for weeks, as soon as you learn how to play against it, it's really not that hard of a deck to play against. That doesn't mean there aren't good players still piloting it. That doesn't mean it's not a good deck. But it's one of those that reminds me a lot of the Darth Vader kind of decks where when you know and or are teched for it, it's really not that hard to beat. And we're seeing that show up now. And we've said the same about Boba, and he took a lot longer to die off, but it's the same effect. Once you learn how to do it, it almost becomes like, oh, how didn't I know this beforehand? So yeah, I'm not shocked by that drop off. I'm a little shocked it lasted as long as it did. I don't expect that one's build will work post Secrets of Power either. I think if it's going to be there, if an aggro cat will be there, it'll have to evolve, and we'll see.
Like everything, we all have to evolve. One thing that I find really interesting, and we were talking about it on the Nordic Takedown stream of the Swedish PQ of the city, in which I'm not going to attempt to pronounce. I was really happy I didn't have to when we were getting ready to intro the event, but had a great time commentating with those guys. Yeo Sarah, we had a great time at the top. Recommend you guys go check it out. But one thing we were talking about that I thought was really cool is that Talzin has kind of bookended the set, right? Winning Galactics and then winning Bilbao in Spain, and we have this situation where it's a really fun deck. It's a really complicated deck that rewards player skill and practice and reps, all these things. But we see it taking down the two biggest events we've ever had in SWU. And it's been in this little kind of like, I don't want to call it like an intermission period, but it's been hibernating a little bit, right? Like, it really wasn't that hot in the middle of the set, but it's crazy how things can change. And when Kyle mentioned when Sharky mentioned the evolution of what CAD needs, I just thought about how the set has evolved and Talzin has stayed the same in some ways and different in others. And I just found it really interesting to see that sort of development throughout the past 3 months.
Yeah, I would have one more nugget just to get into the data here. I mean, to your point, we're getting drawn towards the end of the cycle here. And this is a deck that I'm probably not going to spend any time playing with, since now I'm focused on new cards. But the Hans, we showed that the Hans kind of took over, specifically Han 2 Blue. I wouldn't say took over, but held straight. But the data shows that it actually changed. If you sort by leader and base, it is not Han 2 Blue. It is Han 2 Green. And Han 2 Green ECL. And I think that's obviously because in Bilbao, we had a couple of very prominent players. Both do very well with that deck, and then suddenly it's all over the place. That is surprising to no one, that when those guys do well with their kind of flavor of a deck, that a lot of people pick it up, and we saw people successful with it. So if you are racing to a PQ this weekend, or if you are still preparing in this meta, it is a deck you need to consider, because there are people who are picking it up and winning with it, so you need to know what it's doing.
And that deck will run you over. If you're not ready, that deck will come out and run you over. And yeah, those are great players, and they've been loving that Hantu ECL going back to Shadows, right? With the heavy 1-drop build. So really cool stuff to see that from them. And obviously, like, I've been a Hantu Green player this whole set, right? So that's that finally I'm right once again. So
you were it's a different Hantu Green. It's a different Hantu. Not even forced.
Semantics. There are some forced units in there. I saw Keller and Becker too. But yeah, the other thing that I would say and I would call out is that Poe really had a great week. Your boy, right? The finals of the Swedish PQ that we called was Han 1 Green versus Poe Data Vault, and just like, tough matchup in terms of, Falcon and A-Wing existing. But, right before that, it was a Han 1 Green versus Iden Data Vault. And I bet that Iden player was like, this sucks. I have to play a pilot that's built to beat me, or a pilot that could do recursion and all this cool stuff. And so I would be looking out for that type of space aggro deck. I think right now that might be the premier space aggro deck right at the end of the set, the past 2 weeks at least, with Boba going a little bit down in popularity. But we'll have to have like an off-season intervention about Boba, because he's probably going to come back in some form or fashion with all these plot cards that we were just speaking about, right? So it all sucks, right? So none of it's good. Hopefully your results for your PQ that you're preparing for next week will be good. But generally speaking, pretty constant set. I would say overall that I would expect a little bit more blue-green villain than you were seeing maybe 3-4 weeks ago, like prior to the sector events. I think Thrawn is really rising in popularity, which I think is really cool to see, like we've talked about. And I think you got to be ready for a blue-green villain deck in your build. Depending on your meta, of course, but I think that's something that I would expect to see a little bit more of than I would have, say, last month.
I know, based on the stats, blue-green's not as high as I expected it to be. I'm also not feeling a whole lot of sympathy for any Iden Data Vault deck, regardless of who they have to play against, so I'm glad that they got run over. But, like, Kira looks like the top blue-green villain one at the 5 top 8s on the conversion here. I don't see anybody else really all that close, though. Gar Saxon did win the biggest PQ of, I think, the set, actually.
Really? How many people was it?
127.
Wow, that is a really big PQ. 127 people. Wow.
It's a little different style blue-green villain, but it is still blue-green villain.
Well, I think the big Thrawn move, obviously, is from Bilbao the week previous in Spain, right? With, 2 in the top 8 really starts getting that sort of momentum going. And I know there was quite a bit of players in Sweden playing that as well, so that was really
Yeah,
interesting.
that was a strong deck. I do think that blue green villainous grind, and I think Thrawn is probably my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
But
any final notes meta wise before we get out of here?
Be ready for Han. There's a lot of them.
Good luck.
And
Good
hey,
luck
everywhere.
every
if
week, right?
I have my nugget, and it's, man, if you're still playing right now, just like more power to you. Right, like I'm so into this next set already, and we joke about it and we say by the end of every set we're exhausted, we're so tired of playing this game, and it's because we start doing it a month early every time a new set comes out. But hey, I would do it again, and we will be doing it as we get closer and closer to pre-release, which is only 11 days away, right? We're recording this on Monday the 20th, so a lot coming up here on the channel. Like I mentioned previously in the episode, we got our limited card rankings coming out, as well as our leader rankings. We're gonna get a non-limited ranking spreadsheet sorted as well. On top of that, next week we might have like a get you ready for this pre-release guide, depending on some logistic things. And as always, we have midday matchup on Friday coming in, and just a lot of stuff in the ether for you as we get ready for this next set. Probably be doing some Carbonite openings as we're known to do as we get ready. Hopefully we'll have some good luck doing that. Hopefully you have good luck as well. So a lot of good things happen here at the Cantina Crew. Again, welcome to the Wookiees coming in. Wookiees no more. Now we're in the crew, and we're excited to keep building together. So for Kyle, for Sharky, I'm Jordan. Good luck in your events this week if you're playing, and if you're not, let's get ready for Secrets of Power. Talk to you soon. Bye.